So, good evening, all. My name is Mishana Mohammed, and with me today is Sam Joseph.
Hello, Mishana, and good evening, everyone.
And we are your hosts for the day. Welcome, one and all, to the second episode of Date with an Entrepreneur, organized by IEDC CCE, Christ College of Engineering, Irinalakuda. Christ College of Engineering, established in 2015, is a new entrant in the field of professional education providers. The college is managed by the CMI congregation of Devamata Province, Thrissur, and is a part of the Christ Educational and Charitable Trust, Irinalakuda. I extend heartfelt welcome and gratitude to our Executive Director, Father John Palyakara, our Joint Director, Father Joy, and the Captain of our ship, Principal Dr. Sajeev John, sir. I also extend welcome to all the Kerala Startup Mission officials present. Special appreciation and greeting to the Nodal Officer of our IEDC cell, Rahul Manohar, sir. Also extending my welcome to our CEO of IEDC Christ College of Engineering, Mohammed Ashik. The Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development Cell (IEDC) aims to inculcate and strengthen entrepreneurial quality and motivation necessary to develop knowledge and skills among the members of IEDC. We aim to impart basis managerial knowledge and understanding which helps students to formulate the effective, innovative, and profitable project. Now, Date with an Entrepreneur, brought to you by IEDC-CC, is providing you with this platform thrice a month, where each time you meet a new entrepreneur and you get to know his or her roller coaster ride of successes and failures.
Once again, welcome to the second video episode of Date with an Entrepreneur. We're extremely glad and proud to have another great entrepreneur with us. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome, all the way live from Germany, Mr. Suraj Chandran. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Mr. Suraj Chandran, he is a founder of Karam, a software for remote teams to manage payrolls and other benefits without affecting their employment laws. And Karam was recently acquired by Oyster, Germany. So now we'll come to know more about Karam, its journey to Oyster, about startups, etc. from Suraj, sir. Sir, I hope it's audible, right?
Yes, and quick favor, and please don't say Suraj, sir. You can just call me by my name.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, you're audible. Just to answer your question.
So Suraj,
Yeah.
what was the real inspiration or what motivated you to do a startup like Karam?
So, long story short, after my first startup fail, I applied for a job in a company called Product Hunt, which was a remote team. It's a US company, and they wanted to hire me, but they couldn't hire me because I was in India, and and the CTO of Product Hunt, he wanted to hire me, but he couldn't because of all the logistics problems and everything. And he's like a Twitter celebrity, so he tweeted out my name saying that, hey, there's this person who we wanted to hire, but we couldn't. So and I ended up getting a bunch of job offers, and I moved to Germany. So after this move, I was introduced to this new problem, right? I mean, a lot of people in different countries outside of these tech hubs, San Francisco or London, all these places are being denied opportunities just because of of their location. So I thought that's a problem worth solving. So basically, talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not.
Yeah.
Opportunity is kind of it's in places. So enabling remote teams to go truly remote, although like a lot of remote teams are just based on US or Europe. I thought that would be a good thing to do. Like, I mean, it's a personal problem I had, so why don't I solve it? So that's just like the big inspiration behind Karam.
Okay, sir.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so you mentioned about talent and opportunity,
Yeah.
and you did your studies from Vidya Trishur, okay? And there's this
Exactly.
usual norm or thought that it is easier for Tier 1 university students, like
Mhm.
students from IITs or NITs, to have greater edge in startups, and that they have more talent and they have more exposure to opportunities than us. So, what are your thoughts on those? Like, how can we get more opportunities, or is that just a myth?
It's not a myth. It's actually true. Partially true, I'd say. So it's like different privilege levels, right? So if you are a person born in, say, San Francisco, your chances of building a startup, raising funds, like making it, it's much higher than someone who is born in Thrissur. So the same applies to universities too. So if you are a student from Stanford's or MIT's, like your chances of getting that exposure and getting that getting to build, like know people, like building a network is much better. I think again, when you take the case of India, IITs and NITs are like the top notch, like tier ones, right? And the chances of them raising a fund or educating themselves about startups and everything is much higher compared to someone who's in like a tier two or tier three college in a small random city. It's not impossible. It's a bit harder, and it's real. Like the credentialism is real. So people would listen to you if you are from Stanford rather than if you're from like with the Academy of Science and Technology. So you have a head start if you're in a tier one college.
Okay, sir. So, what do you think is lacking in our education system or the colleges in India, other than
I
countries like
think
America?
education system is the same for even for IITs or for like tier two, three colleges, right? I mean, we probably study the same syllabus. I think what is different is like what are instilled in the students. So if you want to like probably the students in an IITs or in a tier one colleges are exposed to a whole different kind of world that is not being exposed in like a tier three, tier two college. This probably also has to do with the fact that we conventionally, like we are still behind grades. We are trying to get into rank lists, or
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's how you still win, like how you measure winning, right? I mean, if you make it into like if 50 people from your college make it into a rank list, then your college is cool. Which 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 I don't have anything against, but that shouldn't be the only way to measure your winning, or so people in IITs or
True.
like the tier one colleges, they look at life differently. They want different things from life, and they know what they want from life early on, rather than just going to college
Hmm.
and finish the degree. So I think that's the difference. It's not about the education system. It's about the education culture. If you know what I mean.
So, like knowledge and
So,
wisdom
sir,
both
how
are different, right?
welcoming?
Sorry.
Okay, Shana.
Yeah, go on.
Shana.
Okay. So, sir, how welcoming are these international companies or investors to Indian startups, or are there like no linguistic or cultural barriers when it comes to business ventures? What can you give us tips on, to
Yeah.
establish our startups internationally?
Yeah, there are differences, of course, because people from come from different cultural backgrounds. Like when I moved to US for the first time, I had difficulty starting a conversation. I was very like I lacked the confidence to like go in and strike a conversation because of like my language was not the best, or probably I had this inhibitions of what others would think of me. I was still young. I was like 24, so I was thinking, what would they think, or am I doing this right, or am I doing something wrong? So all these were there, but from my experience, all these people I have come across have been very nice, very supportive, and I never had a bad experience. I mean, I think generally, if you're talking to smart people, or like people from different backgrounds, they are smart enough to know that you are from a different background and you are not the same, right? So even if you make mistakes, they are smart enough to understand that it's not a deliberate mistake, or it happens, like probably if someone from their country visits in a completely different country,
Yeah.
they might do the same thing. So generally, like if you're talking to all these knowledgeable people, smart people, I'm pretty sure they'll understand even if you make mistakes. So probably you need not worry about making mistakes. But yes, don't be awkward, or like don't come out as a jerk, but yeah, it's okay to make mistakes though.
Yeah, guys, there are a lot
That's
of
very
things to learn
relieving to
from.
hear.
Yeah, there are a lot of things to learn from what he said. Many lot of points related to how we should perform. Actually, okay, sir. So coming to the beginning stage of a startup, I think
Yep.
one of the greatest difficulty we face is about funding. Even in the
Yep.
initial cases, funding is really required for a startup. So how did you manage about funding for Karam?
I would actually like to answer that in two parts. I would first like push back on that statement. It says like funding is required for a startup. I don't think that is true. It's very
Oh,
strictly my opinion. In 2020, it's very easy to start a startup. So 10 years ago, like you had to set up probably, it was hard to set up a company, or it was hard to set up your infrastructure to building a software or anything. But I think in 2020 right now, as we speak, setting up a company costs like less than $500. Setting up a company in the US costs less than $500.
oh,
Hosting is free. Basically, you can build an application with like the back end and the front end, everything for free today. Like, yeah, literally free. It costs you $0. So as long as you're not building like a next SpaceX, or like if you're as long as you're not building something that requires a lot of upfront capital, like a hardware problem probably, so like SpaceX, or that's an extreme example, but still you get the point. Unless you're doing something very very capital intensive, you don't really need to raise funds. And the easiest way to raise fund is actually to build something people want, like build something that people actually would use, make some
oh,
revenues, and like it will market for itself, and then investors will come to you rather than you. It's super hard, like this credentialism that I referred to earlier. It's super hard to raise funds as a complete beginner, who you are, as long as you're not from these MITs or ex Google, ex Facebook. It's super hard. So easiest way to raise funds is to actually build a product that people uses, people pays for. And right now, like I said, in 2020 it's free. So I think that's not a thing that, like, as a young entrepreneur, if you're going to build a software startup, funding should be least of your worries.
sir, are these same applicable in a country like India or even in Kerala?
Of course, I mean, let's take example Zoho. Like, the company Zoho, right? It's like the India's like biggest software startup. It's completely bootstrapped. Bootstrapped meaning it's self-funded. So if Zoho can do that, why not? Well, I mean, yes, these are like outliers. These are like success cases, but it's definitely possible for like people anywhere in the world to start a company for $0, as long as you're like solving a very valuable problem, as long as you're building something useful. Like, again, I want to like underline that thing. Like, as long as you're building something useful, I'm pretty sure this applies to everyone everywhere. And like, to answer your question of getting funds, there are like startup accelerators, which in which, like, for example, like Techstars or Y Combinator, all these startup accelerators that would fund you like a small amount, like around like 100K to 150K USDs for a small equity in your company. But again, I'd say that's an option,
Yeah.
but it's not necessary. I mean, this is completely doable by anyone all across the world.
I think that's very relieving to hear, and all our young entrepreneurs here would have noted all this. So, sir, in one of your blogs, Fail Often, you wrote that society portrays failure as a negative thing, and the stigma revolving around the word failure leads to the thinking that is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned about your first startup, how you had to close that. So, how did you cope up with this stigma when that became a failure? How was this reaction of the people around you? How did you cope up with it?
So yeah, to emphasize that point, I think conventionally, like exams or schools or colleges have taught us to, like You get a mark, you win. If not, you lose. If you losing is a bad thing. Winning is like winning makes you cool. I think that's it. It might be correct in that context, but that seasons us to believe that all failures are bad, which is not. As you complete college, or as you get out of college, and if you once you face real life, it's about like a lot of failures, right? It's about coping up with failures and moving forward. That's how life works. And it's okay to fail. It's completely okay to fail. Like what others think of you of a failure is none of your business. It's their business. So I read this quote a few days back. There are 8 billion versions of realities, like in people's heads. So your reality might be different from somebody else's. So I think it's the last thing you should worry about. It's hard. It's easier said than done. Like don't care what others think. You are humans, right? You have emotions and everything. You will be bothered at some point. But after after getting used to a bit like a few failures, like read about failures, I think you get used to it. You learn to take it as a lesson rather than a fail. You look at what you learned rather than why you failed. Like actually why you look at why you failed and not take it as a failure. Learn the lessons, correct that. Don't make the same mistakes again and again. So there is a failure, you learn from it. So my first startup was like a complete failure. I'd say like, yes, it was a complete failure, but I learned a lot of things from that. And those lessons were super useful for me for my second startup. That's how it works. Like you need to keep, again, there are a lot of things I did wrong when building Carom, but probably in the future that would be like it would be helpful for me, all those lessons. That's how it works. Like, again, this is strictly my philosophy. Probably I'd be wrong there. People disagree.
So
I
first of all,
think
I
this
really,
philosophy is great. I
yeah,
mean, all of us should take this in, that failures are not just failures, but those are lessons for us to learn from. I think that's a
Exactly.
great philosophy to take in.
yeah. Cause recently I saw a movie called Pursuit of Happiness, and
Yep.
lead
Favorite
plays
movie.
by, yeah, it's a really motivating movie. So guys, I really recommend you all to watch that movie if you haven't. Its actor is Will Smith, and last part there is a sentence like this: failure is not the opposite of success. It is actually a part
Exactly.
of success. It really captured me, that sentence, and I really appreciate you for not giving up on your first failure and keep on trying. That's something everyone should listen to.
That's
Congratulations for
exactly my point. Like, if you look at all overnight success,
yeah,
again, the either quote, overnight success happens over 10 years.
exactly.
It takes time. So nobody wins. Yes, people, there are lucky people and they win at the first try. Good for them, happy for them. But again, like I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk. Probably like other like a lot of other people. There
Everybody.
is like classic example is there, right? Like he before launching his fourth like rocket to space with SpaceX, first three was a failure, and he was like facing bankruptcy with that. Still, he went on forward. So nobody wins at the first try. It's okay to fail. It's okay to fail multiple times. You only have to win once. Like you only one victory would be remembered for forever, and nobody would like once you win, nobody would remember your failures. It's just lessons. It's just lessons towards that success.
Exactly.
I think this perseverance is something that we should all note in, that perseverance is the key. So,
Exactly.
talking about that, when you were at the point of shutting down Karen, plot twist occurs and it gets acquired by Oyster.
Mm-hmm.
Now, very interestingly, I noticed your Facebook cover is that of the infamous Vijayan and Dasan. So, what is equally famous with the picture is the dialogue, "Ellathinu adindedaya samayam undu dasa."
Right.
So, how synonymous is this dialogue with that moment in your life?
Right. So again, this is not like Elon Musk is a cliche inspiration, like for a lot of people. But my other inspiration is Dasan and Vijayan, which is not a very common inspiration. You don't see them as like inspiration figures, right? So yeah, I look, I personally kind of can relate to their life. I started in Chennai. Uh, my co-founder is my wife. So we started like we were in the same college together. We moved to Chennai for the first job together. So we have like had our struggles, like still privileged, but still struggles, through that. So I can relate to try to relate a lot of things Das Netizen has gone through. So, and again, you need to believe in something, right? You need to believe in something to go forward. So, what I believe is like, like you keep working towards what you want, and universe will work for you. And I think everything happens for a reason, and in the end, everything will come together. So that, like this quote, "Ellathinum vande samayam dasa," it's like my mantra kind of. I keep telling myself, it's not the time. If I fail, it's not the time. There is a lot of time. It'll come through. So that's like my one of my favorite quotes.
I think that, I saw all those posts and, how beautifully you have explained your entire life by those pictures from the movie's trilogies. I
Right.
mean, I was like, oh, it's relatable to all of us. We could also tell our stories through those pictures. So that was very creative and that was very fun to go through all that. So
Thanks.
again, back to Vijay and Dasan. You have mentioned that they are your heroes, and you also started out in Madras with new dreams and goals. And again, I love the post where you have mentioned all that. And so you have mentioned, you have tagged Kirti as Vijay and yourself as Dasan. So how is this partnership been? Like you have mentioned in your post that not working together makes you feel weaker. So how dynamic and compatible has this relationship been from the beginning?
So like every relationships, we also have ups and downs. It's not constantly like sunshines and rainbows. Like, like there are some bad days, there are good days, which is completely fine. Like there are no ideal relationships. Like also a lesson for everyone growing up. Like you look up to these bunch of Hollywood movies or Bollywood movies which show you bullshit, and that's not how relationships work. Just a side note, but coming back to the point. So
Yes.
Market Fox, my first startup, my co-founders were a bunch of colleagues from Freshdesk, which is like my first startup job. I'm still friends with them. I have a good relationship with them. They are still my like I discuss a lot of things with them. But what I found is like when working with Kirti is that I need not, like there are a lot of advantages. Like building a startup is hard. Like to put into like to understatement. So there are a lot of things that makes it easy. So a lot of communication. There are a lot of hard conversations you might have to have as part of startups. Like you might not work well with your co-founder, as in like there might be behavioral problems, or there might be there can be a bunch of problems, bunch of different problems. So what makes it easier for us is that we can have these tough conversations without a preface. Like if I hate something about, like if I don't like something about what she's doing, I can say that without a preface. I can say this is not right. We should do something about this. She can also tell the same thing to me. So I think being equal partners is a very important thing in life and in startups. Nobody should take lead. Yes, you should take lead in things you're good at in life. So I can take example, if in real life I cook because I'm good at cooking. She cleans because she's good at cleaning. Same in startups. Like she's a backend developer. She writes code very well. I'm a front end developer. I used to be a front end developer. And so you should take lead of what you're good at, and also like but at the same time be equal and be open, make that communication smooth. I think that's my unfair advantage, having being able to make those tough conversations easy.
Okay, Suraj. So
I think
coming coming back to startups, I think we said about funding. Okay, and another great issue people face is that usually there's this common norm for parents or for even for the society that it is always better to go for a job after our studies because the security of the job, etc. Because startups, they can be a 50-50 chance. That's what usually the parents say. So another difficult part is convincing our parents about I'm going for a startup. So how to convince? So what was this? How did you face the situation? Because first you were placed in TCS, right? And for almost an year you worked there. TCS is a well-established platform, and your passion made you jumped out of TCS. So how was it to convince your parents about going for a startup?
Again, I had like easy, slightly probably. I don't know, like probably a different set of people face a different set of problems. But I personally didn't have a very bad time. Yes, I had some pushbacks from my parents because obviously, TCS was like used to be like to be honest, even when I joined engineering, like getting into TCS was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
But very soon joining, I realized that
Even
that's
now,
even
it
now,
is.
yeah. But very soon after joining, I realized that that's not what I wanted. Again, I don't have a problem with what they do or know what they are doing, but that's not what I was looking from life. And that was like that's inspired me to, or that forced me to find something else, find something what I want. And yes, convincing the parents is a part of it, but not the hardest part, I think. So, yeah, if you are convinced yourself, I
Yeah.
think that's like probably the most important part. You have to convince yourself first. Like, what do you want? Like, having this vision for your own life is like a good thing. It's a competitive advantage. Knowing like you should be knowing where you want to go in your life. Uh, like that's the first step for doing everything. Like I have a grand vision for my life. Might not come true. Might come true. I don't know, and I don't care. It's okay. Like it's okay to have a vision in first place, then work towards it every day, like small piece at a time. So coming back to convincing parents, I had this conversation with parents, like I have a job, I'm going to move to a startup. At that time I already had a job, so I think like quitting the job sounds so sexy, but if you don't have a backup, it's not a good idea. I mean, you have to pay your bills, right? You have to pay your
Yeah.
rent. So don't do stupid things, although like quitting the job sounds sexy, or it sounds cool, but don't do that. Make sure you have a backup. So when I talked about quitting the job to my parents, I had a job in my hand. I said I'm yes, and then there was a security question, like how would you like, is it safe, is it and in the end you have to live your life, right? Like with all due like respect to all the parents and everything, like I am what I am because of them. Total all credit to them, but in the end you have to live your life. So all these decisions you have to make them for yourself. You shouldn't regret, like 10 years down the line looking back, I should have done that, like that's like the worst feeling you can have. If you made the decision and something went wrong, it's okay. But if someone else made the decision for you and then that goes wrong, it feels really bad. So make the decision yourself, and it's okay. Even if it goes south, even if it goes wrong, it's okay. I mean, you can start over. That's that.
Yeah, exactly said, sir. And I have another question from that. You said about, first of all, we should convince ourselves, other
Yeah.
than the parents. It's like we should have a real passion or a real understanding. And I would like to call that as an inner call for doing a startup. Okay, it's a personal question. First of all, is it
Hmm.
okay to have this inner call late? I hope you got me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even
Like,
soon after the college, or maybe it's late. Is that okay to get that call?
to be honest, to be completely honest, I didn't even know how to spell entrepreneurship. I still don't think I know. Like, like even when I was in college, to be
Yeah.
honest. So the calling and everything, it doesn't just like happen like that. You are exposed to something, you try something new, you like it, then that becomes your passion. So it's not like you're born with a passion. Maybe for artists, I don't know, like maybe for a different set of people it's different. I'm talking strictly in with regards to startups and entrepreneurship. You're not born with passion for building softwares. Mostly you'll have a passion for a problem, not a solution. You should be having a passion for a problem, and you try to solve that. So it's not about finding the passion, it's about finding things you like,
Yeah.
and then you get good at it, you get really good at it, and then that becomes your passion. And passions can change. I mean, I cannot say I'll be doing this for the rest of my life. Like I do a lot of things. I like photography, I like traveling, I do a bunch of other things. It's okay to have like multiple passions, and I think passion is a very misused word. Like people throw it around like it's like a cool thing. Hey, I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate. It's okay not to have a passion. It's okay to have more than one passion, and again, there are no norms, right? There are no norms to follow. So yeah, it's okay to, again, like coming back to your point, I had no idea about entrepreneurship even when I was working in TCS. It's after that I joined Freshdesk. I was introduced to a whole different world of startups and entrepreneurship. That's when I thought I should do something. I mean, you see new things. So the point is to expose yourself to new things. That's when you know there are these things exist, and probably I might like it, and you try it out.
Okay, sir.
Right.
That's really great. You talk so passionately about passions. So cooking, traveling, photography, these are all your passions, right? And I
Yes, I
love
like that.
this day and night shot of Eiffel Tower you had put up in Facebook. It is as beautiful as the real view, I must say. And the travel
Thanks.
vlogs with your wife are envious. So how much are you able to involve in these activities between your schedule now?
It becomes like a lifestyle rather than like a thing you do. I think it's important to adapt to that kind of a thing rather than as opposed to looking at things as things you have to do. Like traveling, for at least for me, right now, is like a lifestyle, part of lifestyle. I don't need to plan a lot of time. Like, I don't need to spend a lot of time planning a trip. It comes naturally because we have been planning a lot of trips. So we plan quickly, we move quickly. It's like everything else, right? It's like doing a push-up. First push-up is hard. If you train 10 push-ups, will become easier. Then 15 will become easier. So first, like planning the first trip is hard. Building the first startup is hard. So everything else, like as you repeat, as you practice, it becomes second nature. So right now, traveling is kind of a lifestyle. So and I can work. So traveling need not be a vacation. So I travel and work together. So even between all these travels, I can like set if there is Wi-Fi, I can work. Again, we are all privileged to have access to internet all the time, right? I mean, 10 years ago, things were different. I didn't have access to YouTube when I was in college. I had my first Android phone when I was in like final year. So things are much different now. There is Geo, so everybody has internet. Uh, so yeah, as long as I have access to a laptop and Wi-Fi, I can work from anywhere. So it need not be from Germany. It need not be from India. It need not be from US. So wherever I am, I can still work. So I think traveling as part of life, like as a lifestyle.
I think we all should be envying you that you can travel and at the same time work, and I think that's really envious.
I
Yes,
So,
sir.
sir, you yes, yes,
yes,
sir,
Okay.
I
yes,
mean,
sir.
So,
yes. The one point I wanted to make is like the remote work. I have been working remote even before COVID happened.
Mhm.
So now the world is much more remote friendly, right? Like I think everyone can find a remote job and do this, like do everything that they ever wanted. So it will become easier as we go
True.
forward.
okay, sir. So
So, sir,
during
you
your
have
college,
been to many of these.
Sorry, I lost you for a minute.
So, sir, you have been to many of these countries. So, after closing up the first startup, you moved to Silicon Valley and then to Berlin, Germany, and to work at Store to Be, I believe.
Yes.
So you must have met a lot of people throughout this journey. So how did this help in building up a network that was helpful to start Karam?
Quick correction there. Like I didn't move to Silicon Valley after like the first startup failed. I was building the
Okay.
first startup at Silicon Valley. So we moved to Silicon Valley
Okay.
to build the
My
first
mistake.
startup. So no problem. Just saying. Uh, so again, coming back to the actual question, meeting smart people is like, or spending time with smart people is the single best thing you can do to yourself if you want to be like them. Like work. So again, quoting some smart person quoted, you are the average of 5 people you spend time with. So
Mhm.
like choose that 5 people, like handpick those 5 people, you will become like them. I think that's like one good thing that you can do. Find a mentor. Like find like go to again. Networking is like a very bad term in my opinion. Again, my strictly personal opinion. You go to LinkedIn, send connections, and build a network. That's not going to work. Build relationships. Don't build network. Uh, look at your life. You might have like 2,000 or 3,000 Facebook friends, and you have like 10 family members. Like when there is something you actually want, when there is something you actually need, these 10 people would be the ones who are there for you, right? Same applies to a virtual network or a job network. Don't build a huge network of like 20,000 people. I mean, yes, it helps for distribution of your startup and a lot of stuff, but build relationships, build genuine relationships, have genuine conversations with people, ask good questions. I'm pretty sure people would respond to you. Like all these people who are like who you look up to, send them a good question, ask a good question, then they would give you an answer, rather than asking, hey, can you mentor me? Ask them, hey, I'm facing this problem, how would you solve it? So they would give you an answer. So that's how you build relationships rather than building networks. So yes, I think spending time with smart people is life changing, to say the least. Having these conversations opens up your mind, not just as on a professional basis, as a person. You open yourself up to new cultures, new way of thinking, all these things, which is I think absolutely necessary in today's world. Like having an open mind, being open to all cultures and on all ideas and everything. It's super important in today's world. So yeah, if you have to take away something from what I said, don't network, build relationships rather than building networks.
I think that was a very well put answer.
Yeah.
We did get many tips on, it's about asking the right questions to the right people.
Exactly.
Yes, guys, and the important point, what I felt is that some great person actually quoted this: "The company we keep determines our future." That's some I have read the same. Okay, sir.
Right.
Coming back to your studies time, during college days, you have done college projects like 3D virtual authentication system and summarized sentimental analysis using machine learning, etc. Right? And the places you worked after college, they both look some different. First question is, how do these how do these projects help you in your startups by any ways?
So yeah, 3D virtual authentication system and summarized sentiment learning sounds really cool, right? So that's exactly the reason why we did it. It sounded cool, not that we wanted to do it. Don't do that. Don't do things because they sound cool. If I were to go back today, I would do something different. I would do something that is actually useful. AI sounded cool back then. 3D sounded cool. Virtual authentication sounded cool back then. So we, as teenagers, wanted to be cool kids in the college. So we chose something cool. It's like the title itself is a reflection of that. It's overblown. And AI is like if else, right? In the end, don't do that, and do something that's actually useful. I also have to agree that our like teachers and the education system has a role in this. They also want to do something cool to you, rather than something useful. Maybe building a web app is probably much more useful than building all this bullshit. Like all this, it's not bullshit. If it works, it's a great thing. But the way we try to do it's to get marks or to look cool. Don't do that. And I also have seen this. It's a side note, but I also have seen this tendency of people outsourcing the projects to, I don't know, different people. They don't do it. Please don't do that. Like it's a request. Please don't do that. Probably these projects are the only actually useful thing in your whole curriculum, in the whole BTech curriculum that I don't know. Probably things change now. Like when I studied, things were different. Probably these are the only useful things. Do it yourself. It's okay to fail. Again, like I said, coming back to that, it's okay if it's not perfect. It's okay if it doesn't work. Do it yourself. That would be a great learning opportunity for you. That's something you actually do in that whole 4 years. Do it yourself. So that's a side note. And coming back to this, yeah, it has never helped me on anything else. That's like the frank, blunt answer. So do something useful that you might, again, you might be interested in. It might be cool. If it's cool, it's great. Even if it's not cool, it's fine. And do something that you like. Do something that you would use.
Exactly, sir. And also, in your profiles it is said that along with your studies, you did a few of part-time jobs, like, for example, web development, then designing, social media marketing, etc. Right, sir? Okay, so
Yeah.
how do you think the advantages and disadvantages of doing these part-time jobs along with studies?
I don't think there is any disadvantage, to be honest. The advantage is that you are actually exposed to the real world.
Exactly.
So again, I don't want to bitch about the education system. Like it's there are problems, but we have to solve it. But the things you actually learn are outside of it, like college, right? Like things about job. So your learning curve goes up after college, not in college. So I think it's okay to compromise on marks and mark sheet. Again, something if I haven't done like very well in the past. I think it's okay if I had an opportunity to go for an internship in a good company, compromising my marks, like compromising my studies, I would any day choose that internship. I wouldn't. I'd happily again. I didn't know this back then. Again, back then marks were cooler. You need to get your grades up. If I were to give an advice to myself, like my younger self, I would say it's okay to have a bit of less mark. Yes, please make sure you pass. You pass the exams
Yeah.
and don't get fail all in all the exams and everything. That's not what I'm saying. I don't endorse that. Please pass, but it's okay not to get top grades and everything. But there are lot more important things than marks. Like communication skills or like real life skills, working in a team. There are a bunch of other skills that you need to pick up to survive in the real world rather than marks.
So marks are just for colleges. Outside it is the knowledge or what we have learned, right? Okay, so
Exactly.
about that,
A lot of companies, lot of good companies are moving away, like moving this requirement of needing this BTech degree, right, or computer science degree. Like so
yeah,
that's a big lesson that you can take. Nobody cares about your degree. It's all about your knowledge.
yeah, exactly. It was last week, I think I saw a post about uh, Tesla. They said they are looking for new recruits, and in that I heard Elon Musk. He commented that he's not looking for what he has studied or what the uh, degree the person is holding or whether he has completed his
Exactly.
course. He said he's only looking for what he knows. That's exactly matching what you said, sir. Great thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, sir, when you want to build up your team, what are the qualities you look for in them? Now, that as you said that the marks does not matter. So, what qualities should we be polishing on if we want to be part of your team?
So again, very strictly like personal opinion. Yeah, again, different people might have different opinions. I personally think that technical skills are secondary. You can train for a person for technical skills, right? But you cannot train people to be nice. That has to come from within. So I would prefer to work with people who are nice, who work well with the team, communicates well. By communicating, I doesn't mean good English alone. They should be able to communicate on time, or it should be like there is a nice way. Just in general, being a nice human is the best quality you can build over time. And secondly, yes, you should be good at whatever you're going to do. Like if it's engineering, it's coding, or if it's marketing, if it's sales, or whatever it is, you should be good at it. But I think all the skills you can learn on the way. Like you can, nobody is born with all the skills, right? Like nobody is born developer, or nobody's like born product manager. You can learn these skills, or you can train a new person to learn those skills. But it's really important to be like, I have come across a lot of brilliant jerks, as it's a term. So they might be like really good at what they do, but they don't blend well with the team. That doesn't add any value to the team. So it's important to, like, number one thing is to work well with the team, be a team player, and at times take the leading initiative and all that. It's mostly soft skills. Like like engineering skills or all the hard skills, you can learn that on the go.
I think that's beautiful what you said. The best thing for us to build up is to be a best human being. I think that's a
Exactly.
very beautiful answer. So, sir, what are the official formalities to build up a startup? How do you build it up?
Hmm. Uh, This question can actually take up a 2-hour session. This is like a big topic, but again, I might not be the best person to answer this. There are a lot of content out there in YouTube or wherever you want on how to start a startup. Go to YouTube and search for how to start a startup. There will be a 20 video series from Y Combinator on how to do this. It's very good. I recommend you watching that. It's super helpful. Uh, but to summarize this, first step is to build a product that people actually want, people who actually want to use. Don't start coding right away. Instead, talk to people. Don't think about don't think of solutions. Think of a problem. So this is a classic mistake I have made multiple times. You have this some cool idea, so let's build this. Yes, if you're doing it for fun, please do that. It's fun, nothing to lose. But if you are going to if you're wanting to build a startup, hopefully in future a big company, you'd want to think about problems. Look around you. Look around. What problems do you see? Think about how you can solve it with your software. So that's how you should think about starting a startup. Again, I have this idea for an app. I have this idea for this thing. It usually doesn't work. Maybe it'll work again, but usually, I'm just telling general case. Usually it doesn't work that way. Think about a problem. Maybe if you look at it right now, old people doesn't have a way to go out, because of COVID. They have to stay home. So maybe they need everything delivered at home. So this is a problem. How would you solve it? Think in terms of problems. Think in terms of outcomes. What would change in the world if your solution existed, if your thing existed? So think about that and build a product. That's the first step. Second, once you everything else comes after this. Distant second. Everything else comes to distant second. Setting up a legal entity in the country where you're part of. That's also, again, that's easy. These days it's super easy. Then if you have a co-founder, you will have to set up co-founder agreements and all that. It's a legal, boring part of starting a startup. But you can find tons of content online how to do that. But first most important step that probably outweighs everything else is to build a product that people actually want to use, people would actually pay for. Think of everything else after once you're done with this.
So you mentioned Y Combinator in this. So at the highest point, Y Combinator rejected Carom at the final round of interview in 2019. So what was that experience? I'm pretty sure from whatever I heard from you right now that obviously you weren't down. You still kept building on the project. So from your experiences, what was that like? What was that rejection like, or how was it to handle that rejection?
So I looked at it differently. So there is around 30,000 startups applying for this interview, and only probably 200 or 500 people get into the interview. So I got into that interview. So it is kind of a validation for the problem that I was solving, right? So it is a good thing. Yes, I didn't make it into the final rounds or the final batch, but that's all right. I got a validation for the. Yes, it was hard, to be honest. It was rejections are hard, but then you have once you develop this different way of looking at things with a different lens. So for me, it was a validation for the problem I was solving. I got this over. I even went to Paris because of that. The interviews were in Paris. Like you said, I had a nice week in Paris. So yeah, I mean, in the end, it was it's only gains, right? You have nothing to lose. Again, meeting a bunch of smart people. In the end, it was good.
So that's how that beautiful picture happened.
Yes, exactly. I think you're muted, Joseph. I think you were trying to say something, but you're muted.
Joseph, are you there?
Yes. Sorry.
No worries.
Suraj, how do you think of mentoring young people? Is it okay for you to do that?
Yes, definitely. I already do that. Again, it might be different from a mentorship on my thing. It's not spending time with people. but I try to answer the questions people ask me. It's mostly through emails or Twitter. If you start getting on calls with a lot of people, like you'd have to spend a lot of time for that, and I don't think that's really necessary. Yes, at times I also do that, like to a few people, which when there is when there is necessity, I would love to do that, because I also as a teenager, I also has expected that from people. I also do that, but I think if you start with asking good questions, like I said, it's very easy to find a mentor. You need not have you need not have daily calls with them, or need not have daily conversations with them. But essentially, the role of mentor is to guide you when you're stuck, rather than spoon feeding you. Like that's what colleges do. Mentorship is different. You are on your own, and when you get stuck, you ask for help, who from people who have been there, done that, and they'll tell you, this is what I did. You can also try this. Might work, might not work. It's like startups and life in general. It's like relationships, right? What might work for me might not work for you. It also applies to startup. One marketing success story might not work for a different startup. So yes, I have already been doing mentorships a lot. Basically, it comes to Twitter DMs or emails, answering questions. Once in a while, getting on a call, answering a few questions. Yes, and you should do it. Everyone should find mentors.
I think that's great what you do. Like, what we lack is having that right person to ask the question so that we can ask freely there's always this pulling back when we ask someone. So that's really great what you do. Uh, so, um, you know,
I think you'll be amazed how nice people are once you start asking questions. Like
mhm,
go to Twitter, find the person who you want to be in 5 years, ask them a question. Don't ask a generic open-ended question. Ask a specific
mhm,
question. Ask a good question. That's what I meant by good question. Don't ask
mhm,
how can I be like you. That's a stupid question. Like they might not have the bandwidth to answer that question. That's probably like a huge essay. It took 5 years of my life to get there. Ask them, hey, I'm in this situation now. I'm trying to build a project, and I'm stuck on this. How would you do it? That's a good question to ask. I'm pretty sure like you'd be amazed by how nice people are in general. If you are asked, they would definitely respond to you if you ask a good question.
So ask the right questions and you have
Yes,
yourself a good mentor.
exactly. Yeah.
So, sir, in your blog, you have quoted Steve Jobs, Churchill, and even today you have quoted a lot, many people. But my favorite is your own line that sometimes it feels like getting sucker punched on your pretty face, but that is life. I think it is as relatable as it gets. So, how has life been before and after Oyster? Are you more relaxed now, or are you still on your journey to the destination?
I think it doesn't stop anywhere, right? I mean, selling a startup doesn't mean anything. To be
Mm,
honest, your journey is it has to go on. Life is different, as in like I had a lot of anxiety and everything when I was building a startup, but at the end of the day, I was still doing a thing that satisfied me. You know,
mm,
uh, and right now, like I'm more relaxed. It's a very stable job, and pays well and everything. Like, there is no tension. It's not my thing, right, to worry about. I don't need to go to sleep thinking about a problem I need to solve. So in that respect, it's much peaceful, but
mm.
still the satisfaction levels are different, right? The satisfaction level of building something that you want is different from working for something. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's great. I'm really happy and thankful to have a great job working with really smart people again. That's no, so. But at the end, the satisfaction levels are different. And in future, I would definitely do it again. Like once I find a problem worth solving, I would definitely try solving it. Again, might work out, might not work out. Don't know, but and don't care. But it's okay. Something will come up in the future, and you start working for it.
I think that's a beautiful way of living. Uh, from photoshopping your name on a screenshot of Google homepage to spending a day at Google meeting visionaries. So, what was that experience like?
I think that's the same as like I told multiple times. It's basically life. You upgrade yourself when you spend time with smart people. And it's like software upgrades. Like similarly, you upgrade to your next version when you spend time with smart people. So Google was my dream company to work for someday. Dreams change, and it's okay. Like I said, passions change, dreams change. I wanted to badly work in Google someday, so I was like stupid teen that I photoshopped instead of Google, I photoshopped my name. Yeah, I mean, when I got this opportunity to visit Google, again, I had a meeting. It was part of when I was going through Y Combinator, I had a opportunity to meet. I think it was back then they were like designing Pixel. So we got to meet the design team of Pixel, ask our design questions. Our software design questions. So that was the conversation all about. So it was, again, to put it in one word, it was life changing. Again, basically spend time with smart people. You'll thank yourself later.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so can you recommend a book of recommendation for our viewers?
I read a lot, uh, not necessarily books. I read blogs, books, watch YouTube videos, good YouTube videos. I think the sense of having a good taste for having a taste for good content is a competitive advantage in this age, because there is a lot of content out there, right? Good content, bad content, useless content, useful content. I think having a taste for good, useful content is a competitive advantage. So choose wisely. What you become, what you consume. Videos, texts, like even Netflix shows, like there are good and bad ones. If you see Dark versus if you see what is like that show, like matchmaking, right? If you compare those, consume smartly. I think I don't have a particular book recommendation. All, like, a lot of books are good books, right? I'd say in general, try to read every day. Need not be like, you need not read 10 books a week. I see a lot of people like bragging about how they read 10 books every month or every week. Don't no need to do that. Just be consistent. Spend one hour every day reading something. It can be blogs. It can be. I am a big fan of blogs as opposed to books, because I like my information concise and short. I don't want like I like to read a lot. Yes, when the mood is different, I would love to read all those things. But usually, I would want to get my informations in a chunk, like small and beautiful. So I read a lot of blogs. So just go out there, find some good blogs. Read every day. Like spend 1 hour every day reading something. Yeah.
That was a very, again, well put answer. I must say, all your answers were well put.
Thanks.
So, okay, we'll go for one last question.
Yes,
I
please.
think it might be a very cliche one, but that's something that all of us needs to know from you. From your way of talking, it's a very important question we must ask you. Can you define success in your own words, from your own experiences?
Right. I think, again, like success and happiness is very, very.
That was my next question. Define happiness. So you can
right.
answer them.
I think, coming back to the failure versus success thing, right? I mean, success, you define your own success. You probably already heard of this. And like we as humans have, I think we understand pleasure and happiness differently. Like pleasure, like we often misunderstand pleasure for happiness. Say, by like eating a biryani will give you pleasure, it won't give you happiness, right? Like pleasure is short. Pleasure lasts for a short time. Like, you eat a biryani today, like the pleasure would only last today, it won't last forever. But happiness is like this constant state of well-being, right? And you want to feel good all the time. So I think happiness comes from doing things that gives you inner satisfaction. So for me personally, every day I want to wake up and do things that satisfies me. So that's my, and there is no end goal here. So there is no like, don't work towards the end goal. If we work towards the end goal and you achieve it, we wouldn't know what to do. Yes, it's important to have milestones in between. Like you should set your own milestones, but it's okay not to have an end goal. So for me, it's about doing this thing every day that gives me inner satisfaction. I want to wake up every day, feel good, do something that's meaningful, that do something that aligns with my vision. Like I said, I have a grand vision for myself. I want to do something every day that takes me closer to that. It might be an inch, might be a centimeter, might not move, but it's okay. Do something that takes you closer to that dream you have. So that's about my happiness. And it's okay to be sad at times. You need not be happy all the time. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's part of life. Don't chase happiness. Don't actively chase happiness. Just try doing things that it's interesting or giving you satisfaction. Yeah, happiness will come along. Happiness is a byproduct. It's not like a active thing that you should be chasing.
I think that was very inspiring that, you do what you love and happiness comes to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly my point.
So that was really great, sir, to listen. That was very great. So listening to you was again, I don't know, it was, it was educating at the same time. It was inspiring. It was very comfortable talking to you. So thank you for making it like that. So everyone, that was Suraj Chandran, founder of Karam with us. So thank you so much, sir, for spending your time with us,
Yep.
for sharing your knowledge with us, and giving us all these lessons on entrepreneurship and life as such. It was great listening to you.
I mean, I
So
think,
we will now have, yes, sir.
yeah, I mean, I think
Yes, sir.
pleasure is all mine. Like, this is actually the first time I'm speaking to a large crowd. Like, I see like 100 plus people. So thanks for having me. It is also an opportunity for me to talk about things I've done. Very happy to do that, and thanks a lot for having me. It was my privilege to be here today.
Same size. It's our honor too, and thank you so much for doing this with us. And I think we are proud that we are the first crowd to listen to you. So that must be our privilege. So now we'll have the open session for all the participants to ask and clarify your questions to
Yes,
Suraj
please.
sir. And those with the questions, please highlight yourself in the chat box so that we can call up your name and you can ask your questions directly.
Okay, Niranjan Sri Kumar, if you can you please turn on your microphone and you can ask your question.
Good evening, sir. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Throughout the session, one specific thing that you, persistently told about is finding a problem and setting up a startup based on that problem, solving that problem.
Right. Right.
So, in a world like today, where everyone's interconnected and things of that sort, and everyone has got access to these problems, it would not be just me, one person, who is trying to solve that problem, right? So, are there any tips, tricks, or better to are there any advices to stay ahead of that curve?
It's okay if multiple like people solve the same problem, right? Like Uber and Ola exist in India. Like they're doing fine. They're big companies. It's okay if somebody else is also trying to solve the same problem. In the end, like it's not a race, right? It's not a race that you have to win. Or so it's okay. It's perfectly all right if multiple people are doing this, and your solution might be, again, the problem might exist. Like all of you see the same problem, but the solution that you might think at work might be different, right? And please always be ready. Like once you are successful, I'm pretty sure like there will be copycats. Once you build a software solution that's successful, and people will start copying it. So they can only copy your product. They cannot copy your vision, or they cannot copy your brain, or they cannot copy your mind. And I think it's okay to have multiple people trying the same. Like look at Swiggy, Uber Eats, Zomato. Like, look around you. So I think that shouldn't be a problem. Like you should try to solve what you found, what a problem you found, and shouldn't worry about other people solving it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Niranjan.
Excellent.
Thank you for your question. Thank you so
No
much.
worries.
And do we have any further
Anyone
queries?
with any questions? Mohammed Ashik, you can unmute your mic and ask the question.
Hi, sir. I'm Muhammad Ashik, and my question is actually you mentioned that the passion can be changed at any time, and on another answer you mentioned that you have to find a person who you would be like to be in next 5 years.
Right.
If our passion is changing or we cannot find our right passion at the stage of our studying or the better career, how can we find the true passion or true potential in us?
So I think I already mentioned this. So the key to finding passion is exposing yourself to new things. So if you're doing something, you have been doing something for like 3 years, and you still are not passionate about it, there is something wrong with that. I mean, not like probably you should be doing something different. So your idea should be to expose yourself to new things, and somewhere across that trial and error, you would come across something that you might like first. I mean, it's not like instantly, oh, this is my passion. It's not like that. You'll come across something that's interesting to you, then you spend a bit more time on that, and once you spend a bit more time on that, it becomes interesting again, and you learn more about that, and it slowly becomes your passion. So I think the key here is to expose yourself to new things, like completely new things. Try a completely different thing that you haven't tried before. So these are things that might work.
Okay, thanks, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Bijoy, you can ask your question now. Bijoy?
Hello, hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Vijay. Please go ahead.
Okay, sir. I like your look, by the way. It looks nice.
Thanks.
Okay, I wanted to ask if you're doing something that you don't like, but that will ensure a future for you, versus doing something that you like very much, but the future is not really like set in stone. Like, is
Mhm.
that something you've experienced, or anybody close to you has experienced something like that?
I think that's exactly what I experienced in the first year of my career, like TCS. So the future was clear and stable, but I was pretty sure I wouldn't enjoy doing it. So it's okay to try and fail, right? So if you don't try, you'll fail anyway. If you try, you might fail, but at least again, 10 years back, 10 years like later, if you look back at it, you can say yourself you tried and you failed, and it's okay. You won't have regret of not trying. In the end, life is like regrets are not the things that you did and went wrong. It's all the things that you didn't do, right? So don't do things. Try and fail, and like it's fine. I think you can never be sure that a different career path wouldn't bring you success. Probably it'll bring you more success than you think once you get good at it. So again, try it out. Just try it out. Again, don't be
Okay,
stupid and quit your job and go out of your way. But like be sensible about it. But you should definitely try it out.
okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, sir. Thank you
Thank
very
you for the
much.
question.
Thank you, sir.
And now we
I
have
love the
Steve
what you said
Austin.
that Indian regrets are not the things that we did and we regret, but the things we did not do. That is very
Exactly.
true. Okay, sir. So we'll have the next question from Rizwana Rafi.
Hey.
Hey, yeah, so I wanted to ask, everybody in their life would face a hard time where we cannot, we will feel mentally challenged, or in career wise, we meet a dead point. So I wanted to know what pushed you through your worst times.
There are multiple factors. Thanks for the question. It's more personal than professional, right? There are multiple factors to this. My first startup failed, and I had a bad injury, and I was on bed. Like I had a bed rest for almost 1 month. That was probably the worst like loss of my life. Like back balance was like inching towards zero, and like that is kind of a broke phase. And I was still privileged to have food on the table and roof over my head. So like family was there. My girlfriend back then, who is now my wife, she was there. She was very supportive. She had a job. She was in the comfort zone.
Okay.
Uh, so I think it comes down to that 5 people around you. So that
Yeah.
you should handle those 5 people. Uh, it's like the most important asset you can have all your life, not your resume. not your
Hmm.
career success. It's about the people around you, right? So outside all this entrepreneur talks and everything, have that bunch of very nice people around you who can push you through all this. It's about people. It's not just on you.
Yeah.
Have those people around you who can push you through those tough times. Good
Yeah.
question, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. That was really helpful. Thanks.
Thank you,
So,
Ruswana,
sir,
for your
can you
question.
tell us about those 5 people in your life? Who are those 5 people for you?
It's my family and my wife. So it's my parents, my sister, and my wife. Like, my wife is also my best friend. Like this is not something I'm proud of, but I don't have a huge friend circle. Like, I have historically been an introvert. I only have a bunch of friends who I'm really close to. I also have a group called Castle Black. It's my previous startup founders. It's there. We are just 10 people. I always talk to them a lot, and then I only have probably around like 10 or 20 friends whom I can call friends. But again, if you take like go to the next level, it's a family and my wife. So it's that mostly it's my wife, and like that's whom I spend my most of the time with. She's my like rock.
Absolutely,
That's
sir.
very sweet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Steve Austin. Can we have Steve Austin?
Nice name.
Hey sir, this was one of an awesome talk, and my question is, what's your weakness? So one of the most problematic thing that we face is that we are not able to find our best, our ultimate weakness. So what's your weakness, and how do we find that?
Food is one of my weakness, to be honest. I eat, I binge eat, I stress eat, but I also work out a lot. Okay, jokes apart. I think I had a ability to say no during my initial phases. You have to prioritize brutally, right? You cannot do everything.
Yeah.
You can only like Steve Jobs said, like Apple can do a lot of things, but there are only few things Apple should do.
Yeah.
Apple can probably build a helicopter, but they shouldn't do that. So in life, you have to say no to a lot of things, and I had to learn that lesson the hard way. So say no to things that like think about it for a bit. Would you enjoy doing this? Would you enjoy spending your 2 hours on this? Is it 2 hours of your life well spent? If not, just say no. It's okay to like you're not hurting people, right? It's okay to say no to people. Take care of you. Put yourself first. I mean, yes, I'm telling this with respect to career and everything. If it's like a act of humanity or humanitarian stuff, you should definitely help out people, and that's also very important. Be kind to everyone. But when you go to like a career and all that stuff, brutally say no to things, and that was like one of big weakness for me. I used to like, jump on the bandwagon, like, and I go, then halfway I realized I shouldn't have done that, and I go back. So that was like a huge weakness.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Well said, sir. And thank you, Steve Austin. Okay, I think it was really a great utilized session. So it's almost time to wind up this wonderful session. So I'm taking this opportunity to thank everyone responsible for this working of this episode. First of all, let me thank Suraj sir for your patience, for your time to listening to our questions, for answering all our queries. I know it was like a 2 versus 1 session. Two of us were asking questions, and you alone had to answer for them. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much. We wish all the very best for your future endeavors. Next, I thank all the members of IEDC of Christ College of Engineering, especially all the technical team behind this session, and also to the management of Christ College of Engineering, especially finally to all those people who attended the session, to all the members of Kerala Startup Mission, to all the students, all the young minds out there from different colleges. So thank you all for all your cooperation. Hope you could utilize this session very well.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me. And if you have like one thing to take away from this whole like 1 hour session, it's like don't be afraid to fail. It's completely all right to fail. So please keep that in mind. If there is one thing you should take away, it's that.
I'm pretty sure it's not just one thing. We have hundreds of things to take away from this session. Also, I would like to request Rahul sir, our nodal officer, to speak a few words to us.
Very warm good evening, John and all. Suraj, I hope you can hear me, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Hi.
Nice. Nice to have you here. I should say that the session is straight from your heart. You are actually talking things straight away from your heart. Actually, when I was thinking about a concept like this, a concept of having date with an entrepreneur, actually, I do have 2 to 3 people in my mind, or 2 to 3 faces were sparkling through my mind. And exactly one face was yours. Because being a
Thanks.
senior, I'm very proud to say that I'm his senior. Being a senior, I have seen him, I have felt his journey, I have followed him through Facebook, Twitter, and all. And I know the roller coaster ride that he had. Because first of all, he started one startup, and that was something a failure. But from that, he just made a big comeback and made it into Carom, and which is now a part of Oyster. Uh, so I was very much confident enough that you must have that much inputs to share with the young people who are sitting over there in the online to have some takeaway from your session. So I believe that this was the perfect one. We had one last Thursday, and that was actually a 2-on-2 program. Two of the mentors were there, and they were talking much more about the space thing. But today we got exactly an entrepreneur who had met failure and who had now find the taste of success also. So thank you for being here. And I should say that from your words on, that means I just made an Facebook chat with him. I believe that it was a chat with the right person, so that I got him right over here. I have introduced yourself to all my students, and I believe that there are students from various places. From India itself, we do have someone from Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. Oh yes, we do have someone from NUS, Singapore. That's good. And on the outset, I would like to extend my thanks to you for coming over here just over a Facebook message. And I believe that that was the most beautiful session that I have done in this program. Maybe yet to come, but this was a perfect one at the point of time. So thank you, Suraj, for coming over here again.
Like I said, pleasure is all mine. Like, thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk to people, have this conversation. I think thanks a lot for having me. It was a pleasure.
Okay, thank you, Suraj. Thank you. And I hope that there are some people right over here from Kerala Startup Mission. Please note this is Suraj Chandran for you. You can contact him for anything because he is the best mentor. I hope that from the 1 hour that you had with him, you know the capabilities of this man. So I'm very proud to introduce this is Suraj Chandran for you. And all the young entrepreneurs right over there, all the very best. And I hope that you will get many takeaways from this 1 hour session. Once again, I would like to thank everyone who had made this event possible. Suraj, can you add something? You want to add something?
Yes, I'll drop my email in the chat. So feel free to email me if you have any questions or anything. I might not be able to respond to you very quickly, but I'll definitely respond to your questions. I just shared my email.
Right away from his heart. Thank you for that honor also. Suraj, thank you for that. Thank you for having us, or thank you for talking with us for the past 1 hour here in Date with an Entrepreneur. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
So thank you, Rahul sir, for bringing him to us. And again, thank you so much, sir, for making us very comfortable and talking to us, again, as Rahul sir said, straight from your heart. So thank you so much for being with us here today.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I already said it 10 times, like pleasure is all mine. Honestly, I honestly mean it. Pleasure is all mine. So yeah, that's that. I'll close that now. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank
all
you.
right. Bye-bye. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you. So everyone, that was Suraj Chandran, the founder of Carom, with us. We'll be back next week with another guest on August 13th, 7 p.m. Anup P. Ambiga, Chief Executive Officer at Clap Research and GenPro Life Sciences. So tune in for that session too. Also, please note that the feedback form has been provided in the chat box. Please fill it up with the right name so that you will receive the certificates. Please do ensure that the right names are filled in because the certificates will be having those names. And please do note, only those who fill the feedback form will be receiving the certificates. Also in the chat box is Suraj sir's email ID. So as you said, he's open to mentoring everyone. He's friendly. So please do mail him and DM him for your doubts and all clarifications.
Once again, thank you all for joining, and stay tuned for another such wonderful episode, the third episode of Date with an Entrepreneur. This is Joseph Sam and Mishana signing off. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.